Maybe I should have just presented this on the Zoom. I mean, it keeps on spazzing on me. I don't know. Anyway, so Johnny Fairplay was the last one left on the plank, and he then wins the reward. Thunder D and then Johnny Fairplay just really hugged. They're like, "Oh yes, man, yes, you get to go on the reward." The reward was basically that they had the entire camp to themselves, and they could spend a long time with each other, like 18 hours with each other before Thunder D has to then leave and go back home, and everybody else gets nothing. Goose egg. They have to go to another camp to live there while Johnny Fairplay and his buddy have the camp all to themselves. So then they both go to camp, and then Thunder D is like, "Great performance, sir." "You too, man," Johnny Fairplay says. And then Johnny Fairplay says in confessional, in an interview on the island in secret, "My grandmother's at home watching Jerry Springer right now." And it was such an iconic moment because it's like, how do you come up with that? Lying that your grandmother died to try and get a reward, to get sympathy from other people, to help you in a game for $1,000,000. How do you come up with that? That is genius. And this is only number 2 for fans. Could be number 1 for me. I absolutely loved to watch this moment. It was amazing. And did it help them win? You're going to have to find out when you watch season 7 of Survivor on CBS All Access. All right, so number 1, most iconic moment of all time, the rats and snakes speech of season 1. So one of the reasons why this is very iconic, this speech, is because it really changed the mold of the show and really changed what was respected on the show. And I think that a lot of history would be very different if it weren't for this very moment. So it was the final 2 instead of the final 3. So this season, as well as Pearl Islands, were final 2 seasons. Same with Micronesia. These are all final 2 seasons instead of final 3 seasons. So the last 2 people left standing face a portion of the people that are voted out, and they decide who wins. This is season 1 of the show. And then it's very simple at this point. There was 2 people sitting at the end, Rich and Kelly. And 3 of the people that are on the jury, people who decide who wins, were going to vote for Rich. 3 people on the jury were going to vote for Kelly. So those 3 were locked and loaded with their votes to vote Rich and Kelly. And then Sue, one juror, was in the middle and was kind of rocking each way. So then she stands up there and basically says, "Hey, Rich, you're a bit of a loser in life. You know, we were friends definitely a lot, but you're a bit of a loser in life for a lot of different reasons. Kelly, you betrayed the hell out of me. I don't respect you at all." And what kind of happened is that Kelly was in a situation where she won a lot of immunities near the end that she needed to save her game. Final 6, Final 5, Final 4, Final 3. She needed the necklace, pretty much all of them. So Sue viewed her as somebody who was the rat that was running away from the snake in Richard Hatch, who was controlling the game, controlling every vote, convinced people who to vote every time, while Kelly was on the bottom while other people were dictating her fate. And then she was at a point where it was no longer about people dictating her fate, but it was the fact that her fate was in her own hands in immunity challenges. If she didn't win immunity challenges, she was going home. So Sue viewed Kelly as a rat that was trying to run away from the snake, who was knowingly going after prey, and Rich is the snake trying to get food in the rat. So Sue was like, "I plead to the jury and to this island that we've come to know that it be in the end the way that Mother Nature intended it to be, for the snake to eat the rat." And before that speech, I feel like it could have swayed people, because Kelly was actually, even though she was on the bottom and Rich was like controlling the game, that doesn't necessarily mean that Rich's social game was better. He was a bit of a villainous controller that people trusted but didn't necessarily like, if that makes any sense. Whereas Kelly had a pretty good social game, pretty likable person. So they wanted to vote Kelly. They were going in that tribal council like, Kelly's a nice person, I want to give her $1,000,000 over this villain in Richard Hatch. And Sue was the person in the middle deciding this decision, and she was able to sway people with this speech, and Rich ends up winning in a 4-3 vote, very close vote, which proves to me that that speech changed the winner. It cost Kelly $1,000,000, and it changed the outcome of the show, because now gameplay is what is respected. How strongly you played throughout the entire game, the entire time that you were there. That is what is respected a hell of a lot more. And I respect Sue a lot for that. I respect Rich as a player. But if it weren't for that moment, the likable person, the person that is liked the best by the voted out players, would always win. Sometimes it only happens sometimes, but would always win. So I feel like that speech was very important and very crucial in what would happen for the rest of the game. So that's like the number one moment, and it's a bit hard to explain because it was like a 5-minute speech. But if you look up on YouTube, Sue Hawk's rats and snakes speech, it's a very savage speech. It's very iconic as well. So that's the number one moment of all time in the history of Survivor. Okay, next up, I'm going to talk about for 5 minutes. I'll try, probably more than that, honestly. Best players of all time. Top 5 best players. Okay, number 5, Sandra Diaz Twine from Survivor Pearl Islands, Heroes vs. Villains, Game Changers, Island of the Idols, and Winners at War. She's played 5 times on seasons 7, 20, 34, 39, and 40, respectively. So she's one hell of a player because she won the first 2 times that she played. Yes, I just spoiled the season. Whatever, it doesn't matter. She played the first 2 times that she played. She won both times. She was able to, basically say, hey, as long as it's not me, I don't care who goes home. And that really under the radar strategy really did work for her. She was on the bottom going into the final 6 in her first season, but she was able to not be seen as a physical threat, so people just sort of tagged her along, and then they did that for way too long until it was just too late. And then she ended up just sneaking right in there, and then she ended up making it to the final 2, and it was ended up able to win a jury vote. Same thing with her next time. She was flying out of the radar. She was playing both sides. Whenever she was on the bottom, she stayed calm, and she tried to convince somebody in the majority that somebody else in the majority was